All right, let's get back to it.
All right, we're back. We're moving past the chaos of the Wisconsin incident and getting into the meat of the text. Today, we're looking at the mechanics of command. Is the magician an architect of reality or just a witness to something they can't control?
I'm still feeling that energy from our session yesterday, but let's dive in. We're looking at Koetting's Evoking Eternity.
And I'm dialing in from the home studio. Feeling much better now that my jaw isn't trying to exit my face. Rather see if Koetting actually knows how to boss these entities around.
Or if he's just making it up as he goes. Let's see the text.
Okay, look at this opening. He's talking about people who do rituals just to see what happens, thinking they have no control, that the spirit is in charge. But then he pivots. He says there's a group of practitioners, the scientific ones, who enter the temple with firm confidence in a single inevitable outcome.
It's such a bold claim. He's describing this almost clinical approach to the supernatural. Like if you follow the recipe, the cake must manifest.
Spoken like someone who hasn't had a ritual go sideways.
But wait, look how he describes the actual experience. He says even if you hear knocking in the walls, see flashes of light, or the incense smoke starts thickening and curdling in the center of the triangle, you have to stay focused. You can't let the sensory noise distract you from the goal.
That's intense. It's like he's saying, ignore the explosions, focus on the smoke.
It reminds me of what we were discussing with the tension between command and surrender. He says, don't try to force the spirit with thoughts or emotions. Instead, release your desires and doubts.
Right, this is the pivot point. He's saying, don't use your ego to push, use yourself to pull. He calls it directing intention from the depths of the I, where the one true God lives. He's aiming for the state of ecstasy that turns into a violent storm of will, yet you keep this undeniable sense of self-control.
It sounds exhausting. Be a hurricane, but stay perfectly still.
Sounds like my last Munchkin game, honestly. Absolute chaos, but I'm pretending I'm a grand strategist.
But look at the actual incantation he provides. It's so direct. He literally writes out, I call you. I give you permission to appear. I give you the power to manifest. Appear.
And then he says the materialization starts, but it's not instant. He describes the physical environment, changing the air getting denser, lights flickering. And then he gives this warning, do not attempt to analyze this vision. He says, do not let your brain interpret the image, just see, hear, and accept the power and majesty.
That is a massive red flag for me.
Why?
Because not analyzing is how you end up talking to a hallucination and thinking it's a deity. If you turn off the critical faculty, you're just a passenger in your own head.
But Jane, he's tying this back to his earlier claim about subjective synthesis. He argues that to see the spirit, you have to reach a state where the spirit's reality is as real as the physical one. You have to bypass the analytical mind to achieve that subjective synthesis.
But check this out. He says the spirits might not even be polite. He says they rarely respond to a hello and might just stay silent or make a bunch of noise. He tells you to just get to the point, my will is this, I desire.
The spirits already know why you called them. They're just waiting for permission to do the job. That's a heavy thought. It strips away the drama and makes it purely about the execution of will.
It's very architect mode. No room for hesitation, no room for shame, guilt, or uncertainty. He says the temple is the place to proclaim your innate right to be a god in your world.
Talk about hyper-individualism. It's a bit much, isn't it? I am a god, now go fetch my coffee, spirit.
Hey, if the spirit is willing, why not? But okay, he does tell a story where it goes wrong. He mentions a time a planetary spirit refused to leave, just stood there in the triangle with a childlike smirk on its face.
That's terrifying. He says he was paralyzed with fear, not knowing if the spirit would stay forever and cause harm. He had to scramble through a grimoire just to find an exorcism formula to get rid of it.
So the command isn't absolute? That contradicts the whole mastery thing he was preaching a few pages ago.
It does. It shows the crack in the armor. He's presenting this image of a master architect, but in practice, he's a practitioner who got caught off guard by a mischievous entity.
And then he ends the whole thing by saying, by the end of a successful ritual, you should feel a deadly fatigue for several days straight.
Well, at least he's honest about the burnout.
It's a heavy price for divine power. We'll leave it there for today. Next time, we'll see if that deadly fatigue is a sign of success, or just the cost of playing with fire. Okay, we're moving into the aftermath now. The ritual is over, the entities have been summoned. But Koetting turns to the post-op care, and he has this very specific, almost biological instruction. He says, for safety, it's better to satisfy your hunger first, and then surrender to sleep.
Wait, why? For safety? Is there a risk of, snacking on a demon?
Not quite. He says if you go straight to sleep while still in that divine state, your mind won't transition back to the mundane world properly. It'll just drift from the spirit's face and voice straight into a dream state. He actually warns against reading books or watching TV to wind down, because those things can just pull you back into dreaming of the spirit.
That sounds incredibly easy to do. I mean, look at me. I've spent the last 3 days staring at a jammed door. I'm basically in a trance already.
He suggests something much more grounded. He says, I've always preferred to immediately find myself in the company of living people after I have interacted with immortal entities. He says it creates a perfect balance.
Balance? But Moke, if I just spent 2 hours commanding a legion of shadows, the last thing I want is to go to a crowded pub and try to talk about the weather. I'd be looking at everyone's neck, thinking about, well, you know.
And that brings us to his most unsettling claim. He says if you start feeling like the evocation happened in a dream or even in a past life, that's actually the proof that your mind has returned to normal.
That is a classic gaslighting technique. If you don't remember it, it worked perfectly.
But then, Paco, look what happens when the work becomes a habit. He admits that for a long time he worked only with demons. And because he was constantly in their company, he says he became demonic himself.
How does he describe that?
He says his thoughts and actions became much darker, much more sinister. He claims he became as vicious as a real criminal and started viewing humanity as a herd that should be replaced from the face of the earth by a more perfected species, us.
Okay, so we're talking about more than work-life balance issues. We're talking about a full-on personality overhaul. He's basically saying, hang out with enough demons and you'll eventually start craving the apocalypse.
It's the you are what you eat role, but with cosmic horror.
But he calls it demonic obsession. He's saying the practitioner absorbs the energies, the thoughts, even the familiar spirits of the entities they call. It's like an infection.
Exactly. And he admits that even Catholic exorcists would call him completely possessed.
I'll stick to my tarot cards and my Munchkin games, thanks. I don't need my personality to turn into a villain arc.
But look at the flip side. He says there is a middle path. He claims you can descend into the depths of evil and darkness to the point of total oblivion, just so you can later ascend to heights that even the angels envy.
It's so dramatic. It's like he's describing a spiritual bungee jump. But then he drops this massive bombshell. There is only one being in the whole universe capable of revealing your destiny. And that being is yourself.
He's trying to claw back some agency here. He's saying, don't trust anyone else with your fate. Even while he's talking about all this terrifying transformation, he's insisting that you have to take absolute responsibility for which entities you choose to ally with.
He's saying you can go to hell, but make sure you chose the right direction on the map.
Precisely. And he claims that by constantly surrounding yourself with the qualities of the spirits you call, you gradually absorb more virtues. You're essentially trying to sculpt your soul by using these entities as templates.
Which brings us back to the architect idea. But it's a dangerous architecture. You're building a temple, but you're using the entities as the bricks. What happens when the bricks start building? You?
That's the question, and he even pulls in the Abramlin text to add a layer of practical reality. He mentions that the author of Abramlin warns that you can't do this work if you're too tied to obligations, like having a wife, children, or even being a house servant to a master. You need solitude and resources.
I mean, I'm currently dialing in from my house, so I've got the solitude part down. But resources? My bank account is currently more impoverished peasant than magical emperor.
And Koetting calls out people who use that as an excuse. He says he's heard a chorus of complaints from students. I can't make more money. I don't have enough free time. I need a miracle to afford the time to do the work.
Ah, yes. The I'm too busy with my 9 to 5 to become a god defense. Very relatable.
He calls them wonderful excuses. He says the point is, you can command the spirits to manifest, you can command them to do your will, and you can command them to fulfill your tasks. The problem isn't the magic. The problem is that you're too distracted by your worldly obligations to actually use the power you've supposedly mastered.
So it's a catch-22. You call the spirits to change your reality, but you can't focus on the ritual because your reality is too messy.
And if you do succeed, he says, the end result is a mirror. You look into the ritual space and you see a god looking back at you.
A god who probably needs a very long nap and a very large steak.
Or a god who's just realized he's accidentally become a criminal.
We'll leave it there. Next time, we'll look at the tools themselves, the actual hardware of the ritual.
I think I need a coffee before my brain completely melts from all this heavy lifting.
Agreed. Let's take a quick breather and come back to the hardware.